Gold continuing its run midweek. Joining us now is Frank Holmes, CEO of U.S. Global Investors. Frank, welcome back. Let's start with gold's momentum here. The metal is at $12.75 an ounce as we speak. Is it just a flight to safety bid here?
Well, I think that's part of it, a very short-term movement, North Korea and Syria, and that's easy to get headlines. But more important is the underpinnings for inflation.
All right, and on that note, offline we were talking and you said you're really focused on lumber here, which is at its highest point since the U.S. housing crash. So what does that mean for inflation, Frank, and how does that translate into good news for gold maybe?
Well, one of the things we track is that 1 month over 3 months. We've talked about PMI, and PMI globally turned positive last summer and has been consistently staying positive. And you're starting to see other things come in with the Trump card of confidence coming in small business, and it's showing up in record housing starts again. And we're seeing millennials buying in cities like Seattle, in San Francisco. There's a new surge of millennials finally buying homes. The new housing starts is surging lumber prices, and this is very helpful for inflation because the housing sector has the biggest multiplying effect. What it means is that $1 going into housing is like $16 turning over and over, and that is very positive for gold.
All right, Frank, how are you investing in lumber?
Well, we own several of the lumber companies, Weyerhaeuser and some of the Canadian companies. They're doing very well. So they have high cash flow returns on invested capital. There's predominantly 5 of them that dominate the real estate, I guess that real estate, what you would call it, of lumber.
And what are you doing with gold right now? Are you waiting at these levels? How are you handling it?
No, I think some of the gold stocks are lagging relative to last year in the first quarter when we had the surge in gold prices. We didn't get that big record run we'd had in gold stocks this quarter, which I'm feeling much better about. And there's some new gold stocks. But the other important part of the scene of global gold is India. Remember, India back in October, November went through this huge currency recall and reissued new paper, and they wiped out 86% of the paper money that was out there, and gold consumption slowed down, and now it's picked up. World Gold Council came, I think the numbers were 50 tons of gold going back into India. And remember, India is the largest consumer of gold in the world, second to China, but they also have over long periods of time now, many decades, have more gold than Fort Knox. So there's this cultural affinity I like to call the love trade is important for India.
Okay. Getting back to mining stocks a second, Gran Colombia recently launched a lawsuit against the Colombian government. I know you're heavily invested in this company. What are your thoughts on the matter? And do you see this as a growing threat for South American miners here?
Well, I think it's complex, but our biggest investment are the gold notes, which trade on the Toronto Stock Exchange. And interesting enough, stocks are down over the past 5 years. They've had a big climb from a year ago, but our gold notes, we've got all our money back. So it's a wonderful investment that pays every month, listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange. Now, what's happening in Colombia in particular has been other companies have been suing the government for saying, come into our country, invest, and then all of a sudden they move the goalposts. They have a very constitutional set of judges that are very socialistic, and they've been pro the community or any environmentalists, and it's mixed signals of, and so there's a concern of safety and security that the government's supposed to take and provide for these gold mining companies. Gran Colombia is paying tens of millions of dollars in taxes, and they believe they're being cheated on security. And I think this is going to be an ongoing issue throughout Latin America.
Okay, we're going to follow up on that with you. Frank Holmes, thanks so much for your thoughts today.
Happy investing.
And thanks for watching this edition of Kitco's Gold Report. We have Peter Hugg up next.